don't we go ahead and get started? We're about 6 after, so we can go ahead and get started quickly here. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the virtual pitch party this evening. We've had over 75 RSVPs, so people are going to continue to trickle in. And we are really, really excited to spotlight these companies tonight. And we're, of course, extremely grateful to our presenting partner, DELL, for this evening's event. My name is Taylor Ann Adams, and I am the Canon's Senior Director of Member Success.
I'm Melissa Gonzalez, the Canon's Member Programs Manager.
And I'm Hillary Zanoni, the Canon's Senior Director of Member Experience. You'll be hearing from me during the Q&A sessions.
Awesome. So as a quick reminder, in case you haven't heard, at the Canon, we recently launched a virtual and online membership that's available to anyone, anywhere. So traditionally, if y'all aren't familiar with the Canon, we've kind of all been about workspace, but we've really expanded our offering and built out a subscription-based platform for all members of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So really anyone from the entrepreneur to the investor, to the advisor, to the startup company, service provider, and even those who are just kind of curious about dipping their toe into entrepreneurship. So the companies that are presenting tonight are actually on Canon Connect, and they're ready to chat with you more following tonight's event. So if you're interested in signing up for it and figuring out how to connect with these startups and more like them, you can head to the Canon and follow the steps there. So before we kick things off, we want to do a quick poll and see where everyone's tuning in from. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. So everyone, please put your selection in there, and I'd love to know where everyone's tuning in from. Let's see. Lots of Houston. We love that. Oh, we've gotten outside of Texas. That's great. Gonna give it just a little bit more time. Let's see. All right, about an 80% vote. I think that's good. So obviously we've got a lot of folks coming from Houston and who are tuning in. We've got some people outside of Texas, Austin, the greater Houston area as well. So welcome everybody. We're super glad that you are here and we are excited to share with you guys. So that being said, so after the poll, so you are going to hear from 3 incredible startups, and each company is going to have about 10 minutes to present their pitch, followed by a 5-minute Q&A from the audience. So please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions at any time. Once the startup is finished presenting, Hillary, who you met earlier, will ask the startup the question out loud, and then it will be answered in front of everybody. So, and of course, feel free to send a follow-up note to the individual founders following the pitch event and connecting with them on Canon Connect. We want to make sure that these conversations are continuing to happen even outside of this pitch event. So we are super grateful for tonight's sponsor, DELL, and we wanted to kind of give them the floor for a little bit and let them talk about some of the work that they are doing in the digital transformation space. So Dan, the floor is yours.
Hey, evening everybody. Even though I am DELL, I'm actually not Texas native. I actually am up here in Nashville, Tennessee. Been at DELL for 15 years. I've been in our OEM organization for the last 10 of those, and I am the sales development manager for the Americas, which basically means that I'm the guy that knows a guy and try to help people make connections and explain what kind of OEM does and how we work. Next slide, please. So this is the world we live in. The honest truth is, as I talk to startups, as I talk to established companies, as I talk to some of the largest companies in the world who are looking at new products, they are facing a very different world. Rising customer expectations. They're no longer asking, what do you have for me? They're saying, what can you solve for me? Or I need this solved. Pace of change, right? It's just snowballing. we've gone from, in the last 20 years, we've gone from cell phones with 2 hours of battery life to cell phones with all day battery life, right? 1G to 5G. That's just one small piece of technology that's changed. Supply chain security. Not going to talk a lot about this other than to say that it is a challenge, right? As you go all the way down to the component level for some technology solutions, let alone other industries outside of technology, you start to see real challenges around how can I make sure that my supply chain is secure and that it comes from the right kind of places. Digital transformation. It's a big buzzword, right? And I think really this sums it up, right? What can we do this on our own? I have started talking in the last couple years to a lot of large corporations that in the past they would have gone out and just bought an edge solution, or they would have gone out and bought a security and surveillance or a point of sale. Now they're saying, why can't we build this ourselves? We have a large IT infrastructure, we know technology, we know our business, why can't we build this ourselves? So that's what they're starting to look at. Complexity, though, is absolutely a killer to that digital transformation. The more complex something is, the harder it is to do, the harder it is to start. I helped launch our IoT initiative 6 years ago at Dell. And 6 years ago, I ran around the country talking about how amazing the edge was going to be and how everything was going to be connected, and it was here, right? The time was now, and soon your car would be taking you to a grocery store to pick up stuff that your house told you to buy. Clearly, we were a little bit early. And the honest truth, I believe, is because there's a lot of complexity. When you talk about edge solutions, particularly 6 years ago, to make a building smart from the ground up, not one that already exists, but to build a smart building, you had to talk to like 30 different companies that did all very different little pieces. Lots of complexity in that, a lot of resistance to that kind of change. Next slide, please. So this is kind of just a visual of what I mean. Not to date myself, but when I was born, we were really kind of on the left of that chart, and I wasn't born that long ago. If you think about maritime vessels out there, they were pretty much connected by a radio. And if you were out of radio distance of other ships or other relays, you really might be kind of stuck and just out of luck. Get into the 80s-ish, and you start connecting those vehicles, right? So that vehicle starts to be able to be tracked by satellite. People kind of know where you are. They don't know the condition of the boat. They don't know the condition of the world that you're sailing in, but they know that you're a boat and that you're alive, right? And then you start connecting the whole system. So suddenly someone sitting in Boston Harbor can know where you're at, how's your fuel, is your engine working? It can be alerted to have parts ready because the ship has told you that it's unhealthy. Today, and this has really happened within the last 10 to 15 years, it's up and down the whole chain, right? So it's not just individual ships, it's fleets of ships, and it's supply chain, and it's Walmart knowing when the raw goods are getting to the manufacturer that's going to stock their shelves in 3 months, right? It's going down this huge system that is connecting the boat, the supply chain, the stock, the support infrastructure, everything all in one place, right? And this is the world that you guys are starting to build your startups, your ideas, your technology around, is this connected world, which is very, very different than really even just 30 years ago. Next slide, please. So this is where I start talking a little bit about Dell, right? Out there on the edge, and we've got this new term, which I will admit I don't love, which is the very edge. Dell doesn't play well on the very edge, right? So we're not going to do sensors. Our gateway products are a little bit long in the tooth. But once you kind of get past that aggregation point, we become very, very relevant. Obviously, we have data center technology. We have storage. We have compute. We have PCs and laptops that can read that data. We have cloud enablement and security. So as you go from the left all the way to the right, right? So from the edge, we're trying to get things to do stuff, to what did they do and did it work, and store that data. We've got a great story. If you're someone that's in this field, if you're someone that's trying to make a solution out there that works, and you've got an application or appliance that you're trying to insert into this environment, then that's certainly something that we can help with. Next slide, please. This is who OEM is. So OEM, I like to say OEM is the best kept secret at Dell. We're a relatively small division when you think about the greater scheme of Dell, but we are the #1 OEM provider worldwide. That is not me nitpicking and saying we're #1 in Iowa on Tuesday. We are the #1 global provider for OEM. We have over 900 employees around the world. We have 230 global partners. We're covering 40 industries. We're in 70 plus countries. The one that makes me proudest, though, the one that has kept me here for 10 years and will keep me here for another 10 years, is that we have 10,000 projects that we've helped launch out there. We've got companies curing cancer. I've got a company that can test and validate whether you have COVID within 45 seconds. And it's actually semi-portable. So suddenly you can open up sports stadiums and theaters and movie theaters, and they can actually guarantee that everyone's been tested and is COVID-free before they enter that environment. So this is cool stuff, right? These are amazing things, and I never know who I'm going to talk to or what we're going to be trying to accomplish together. To the left there, we call this the Death Star, right? But if you think of it, right, it starts with the idea, your IP, your intellectual property, your secret sauce. And then we're going to help you wrap around it what we need to be able to go to market. So we're going to try to help you make it agile and cloud native. We're going to try to help it be hyper-converged and software-defined, because that really is the world that we live in. We're going to give you dedicated engineering and program management resources. And then finally, we're going to utilize everything that Dell as a tier 1 vendor can do. So a secure supply chain with global reach, end-to-end, and most importantly, as most of our customers realize, that global support option that your customers can call up Dell and get support for their solution 24/7 is pretty critical. Next slide, please. So this is kind of how we do it, right? So we sell absolutely 100% the Dell standard portfolio, so storage, laptops, keyboards, monitors, etc. But then we have some unique products. So we have some extended life, we have rugged, we have industrialized, as well as some short depth products and pieces like that that are unique to our environment that don't have a lot of use in an IT environment. And then custom. Custom is when our customers are coming to us and saying, hey, I really like this as a starter block, but I need you to install these components and 3D print this component and validate it for this environment. And that really gets to the point where it is a custom solution. So we help them go from kind of off-the-shelf technology to something that no one else can do or match. Next slide, please. Classic Stronger Together, right? So it's kind of a big, confusing slide, but effectively it's another way of looking at what we bring to the table as an organization. So we wrap your solution, we wrap our customer solutions with all of these pieces. Kind of the dark blue is ideas of things that we have or do. So we can rebrand, we can ruggedize it, we can make it secure. To the right is kind of the custom services or post-sale support. So we can image it, we can give it asset tags. You know, on the extreme end, we can bundle non-Dell components with a Dell solution, put it all into an overpacked situation, and then ship that out to your end user. So once you've designed your product, once you've launched your product, you never have to touch it again. And then over there on the left are really things that we try to help with, right? And we're going to use some of our sister companies like Pivotal and VMware and SecureWorks to help accomplish those things for you and help stand up your solution so that it works in this new environment. Next slide, please. Finally, this is just kind of a detail of what a configuration service is, right? So if you think about, if you have a multi-vendor process, in other words, if you're like, hey, I'm going to go talk to this guy, and this guy's going to do this for me, and this guy's going to do this for me, you're going to have raw components involved, then it goes on a boat, and then someone does an imaging service, and someone else installs something, and that's going to have transportation in there. And then you're going to have someone package and tag it, or maybe you're going to package and tag it, and then finally you're going to deliver it to the customer. With Dell, what we're really trying to do, particularly in OEM services, is we're trying to stack those all in one place. So that basically your idea, kind of represented by that manufacturing plant, just gets done by all those four things get done in one place, so that the length of time and your time to revenue is quicker, because it's all accomplished in a much shorter time frame, allowing it to ship to your customer much more quickly, and therefore make them happier, and then honestly get you to revenue quicker. Next slide, please. All right, last slide, guys. You've survived it. So this is really kind of the blanket statement of saying we're not just hardware. If you've kept up in the news with what Dell has done over the last 6 or 7 years, we've really gone from a total IT data center and client systems to total solutions, right? Total technology family. So we've got storage, we've got all that hardware storage story over there on the Dell EMC side, but then we've got VMware and Pivotal. So we're going to talk about virtualization and edge enablement and cloud native and cloud enablement. And then we're going to talk about security, right? No company wants to be the one that gets found out that they revealed 60,000 people's social security numbers because of some breach on the air conditioning unit, right? So this is all designed to both design security around everyone's solutions as well as test and validate it. And then VirtuStream. It's honestly, I don't know a ton about it, but it's a cloud native solution, right? It's pure software. It's pure stuff out there that helps, enables, and empower cloud solutions to do what they need to do and make sure that their complexity is removed from it. And we're able to bring all of this together on behalf of our customers, which is why we have a very compelling story, and why honestly I believe that we are number one within that OEM field. That's it. So I just wanted to kind of share our view of the world of technology, as well as talk about the little piece of that world that I occupy, and I'm very proud to be a member of. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate your time and y'all's commitment to the Canon and the entrepreneurial ecosystem as a whole. So we will go ahead and move forward with the rest of our pitches. Sorry if you hear my dog, by the way. It's a work from home situation. First of all, we have CityGuyd. So CityGuyd brings new advancements in augmented reality technologies to the travel market in a really exciting new way. They augment real-life tour guides on the ground of tourist attractions across the globe. They are new, engaging, convenient, and 100% socially distant digitized tour guide experience. So I will now turn it to Noor.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that. As Taylor was saying, my name is Noor Amir. I am co-founder and tech lead of CityGuyd. CityGuyd is a smartphone mobile application that brings new advancements in augmented reality technologies to the travel market in an exciting new way. As Taylor mentioned, we augment real-life tour guides on the ground at tourist attractions across the globe. Here you can see an example of our AR Abraham Lincoln tour guide on the ground at the Lincoln Memorial in DC. So if you could go for the next slide. So how did we get into this business? Well, I was a young engineer working in the AR tech scene, helping build the world's future consumer-oriented AR tech classes. This was technology that all the biggest names in the industry were saying would be the next big thing. It was going to rival the iPhone revolution that preceded it, et cetera, et cetera. And as I was helping build this new hardware, I couldn't help but feel there wasn't really good, strong use cases for it. What would people do with this awesome hardware that we were building? And as I was thinking about that, I decided to go on a trip abroad. I've always been a lifelong traveler, and decided to wake up really early one morning with some friends to hike up to this ancient fortress mountain to catch the sunrise. And when we got up to the top, we realized it was so early, there was no one around to tell us about what it is we were actually seeing. What were these structures? What was the history of this location? And that's when the idea popped into my head. Why isn't there an app similar to Pokemon Go, where I could hold my phone, and then through my phone camera screen, a tour guide pops up on the ground to tell me what it is I'm seeing? And that's kind of how CityGuyd was born. So next slide. to reiterate the problem, right? The problem is the travel industry just makes it too hard to travel. You don't have to take that from us. You can take it from John Kim, a president at Expedia Group. He told us this directly, as well as that the industry needs to embrace new technologies to address this pain point. So let's take a look at the traditional ways of getting around. So you could hire a private tour guide, but that is expensive and it kind of limits you to a rigid itinerary. You could download an audio tour, but most travelers we've talked to find them a little one-dimensional and a bit stale. Or you could do it the do-it-yourself route and use TripAdvisor for recommendations, Google Maps for navigation, and then travel blogs and websites when you're actually on site to learn about what it is you're seeing. So we figured that's just not that efficient and there has to be a better way. So next slide. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is CityGuyd. It is a smartphone, it is a face-to-face tour guide experience that is always accessible and it is right in your own pocket. You can choose your itinerary at your leisure, arrive at your destination whenever, and then when you arrive, our tour guides pop up to tell you about what it is you need to know. You can even pose for photos with our AR tour guides as seen here in the right side photo. Next slide. So this is the market we are entering. Everyone knows the travel market globally is a multi-trillion-dollar market, but we're really focused on a subsection of the $320 billion student/youth travel market. And we're focusing on the younger travelers first because we believe they will be the first to adopt this kind of technology. But another one that's really relevant here is the $135 billion tour guide market, which has been severely impacted by COVID-19. And that's led to many different cities across the world actually launching multi-million-dollar tourism campaigns to try to encourage people to come back to their cities. And that's kind of where CityGuyd has found a home in the last few months. They want to encourage people to come back in a COVID-safe way, and that's kind of what CityGuyd is. There's a couple other markets that are relevant here, but the big one would be the $108 billion VR/AR market that is only growing and growing, as you can see in the chart on the left side. And the big takeaway here really is that COVID-19 has only accelerated these new adoptions. So next slide. So again, to reiterate, why now? So Pokemon Go has really validated the idea that location-based augmented reality could be not only technologically viable, it could also be economically viable. Second, to touch up again, the current travel crisis really lands travel companies such as ourselves in a very challenging spot, but it really presents new opportunities to rethink the way the world travels. We've been trying to convince the world of the need to digitize the tour guide experience for multiple years now, and that need has never been more apparent than in the aftermath of the COVID-19 travel crisis. And then again, there is a new kind of traveler in town, right? Millennials and Generation Z are digital first creatures. I mean, the statistics prove that at every point. So right now is the optimal time for something like this. Next slide. Go-to-market. This is a quick summary of our go-to-market strategy, right? Phase one is really heavy focus on partnerships. That is where we partner with companies such as travel airlines, hotel chains, city municipalities, tourism boards, campuses, museums, etc. And we create custom AR tour content for them. And then we also create the technology to have them augment it for their clients. And then phase two is kind of in the background, but we're really helping to build a marketplace where third-party content creators can actually sell AR tours directly on our platform. And then phase three is where we're going to start building some of the case studies, which we're actually in the process of right now in a couple of different cities across the world. We really want to prove what it is we're saying here to everyone, and that's the purpose of the case studies. And then that will lead us to influencer marketing. We think CityGuyd is a perfect platform for influencer marketing because landing in a new city and having a virtual tour guide is cool, but if that virtual tour guide is actually famous or representative to the city, that's an even much cooler experience. Next slide. This is our business model. Again, it's relying primarily right now on sponsored tour content. So we sell those packages for AR tours for a city or for a use case, ranges between 5 to 15K right now. And then secondary, we also sell directly on the marketplace, and we kind of allow a range of freedom for our tour guides to charge what they think is the best, since they're more familiar with their work. But those usually range between $2 to $20 per city. And then CityGuyd just charges a 30% revenue cut for any sale on the platform. Another really big revenue stream that we're hoping to get into in 2021 is location-based AR advertisements. That's rated to be $2.6 billion market in 2022 alone. And again, that was also most famously successfully implemented by Pokemon Go. Next slide. This is a quick summary of some of the traction that we have. We're currently helping build one of those case studies in the city of Key West. We're also just launching our first school campus orientation tour for students, featuring their own school mascot, since in-person tours had to be canceled due to COVID. We've also been featured in a host of different travel websites and blogs, the highlight of which was recently being included in FocusWire's 25 hot startups to watch in 2021. So very proud of all this. We can go to the next slide. This is a quick summary of our roadmap. Again, it just shows some of the accomplishments that we've done technologically wise. It lists some of our goals for how many cities we want to be available in, some user-based goals, but the real fun one here is phase 4, and that's where we're going to start incorporating some more advanced augmented reality technologies to really build an experience that was never before possible. Next slide. This is our ask. We've been currently, until this point, we've been bootstrapped. We're very proud of how far we've come with that, but we do feel that now is probably the right time to start raising. We're not raising a lot. We're only raising $150,000. We believe that that will be enough to finance some of our go-to-market strategy and really accelerate the development work of our tech platform. And then that should be enough to get us to really get us to that next step. Next step. So again, this is our team. I'm Noor Amir. I've helped build the future consumer-oriented glasses at companies like Magic Leap and Facebook. My co-founder is named Pauline Fetter. She is an travel industry professional with over 30 years experience in the business. She's worked at companies like Amadeus, South African Airways, Frosch, etc. And we also have a small team of developers who are also at the forefront of AR engineering. Next slide. This is our awesome, awesome teams of mentors who help us out every single day. 2 of which are actually local to Texas, Dirk and Sebastian. Dirk is actually very local to you guys. He is in the Canon, and from my understanding, he's been there since the very early days, so you guys might know Dirk or see him around. Awesome, awesome, awesome guys. And then we can go to the final slide. CityGuyd is the 21st century way to travel. It's available now on iOS. Let's make travel simple, fun, and engaging. And now let's take some questions.
Thank you so much. It was a fantastic presentation. I actually do have a handful or so questions for you. The first one being, does CityGuyd work underground and on top of mountains where there is no web connection?
That's an interesting question. I've never been asked if it works underground. So underground, it won't work just because we do monitor GPS signals. It does work above ground and on mountains, even if you don't have internet connectivity, because we allow the ability to pre-download all the tour guide videos for a city. So if you're going to Paris, you can download all the videos available beforehand when you're connected to Wi-Fi. And then we just trigger the correct location based on the GPS.
Very cool. Another question I have for you is, what other markets could CityGuyd apply to or branch out to in order to supplement tourism?
Oh, I love that. I love that question. I mean, in these past few months, we've really had to explore that option, right? As tourism has kind of gone underground. And we've found a lot of different surprising ways that have even, surprised us. I mean, like we said, we did the campus orientation tours. We started dabbling in musical performances, so we can, augment a live musical performance into your living room. We've done some use cases, we've explored some use cases in education where we can augment characters from history for students who are now studying virtually. The core technology behind CityGuyd is just to augment people right into your life and when they're not really there. So there's a lot of different use cases and we're kind of exploring which one works best other than the travel one, which we focused on at the moment.
Now, you mentioned in your presentation that you're currently building a case study in Florida. And so where will the first locations and tours be after that?
So CityGuyd is actually available in a number of different cities across the world. So Miami is one. That's where we're locally located now. New York. The case study we're building right now with the tourism boards will be in Key West. And that's just a very small location that we figured could be an easy, case study to build and explore and really see the results and study how people are receptive to it. But we are always expanding. So every month we're adding more cities. We're adding Sydney next in January. I believe we're in Toronto, a couple places in Europe, and then I think the next big ones are going to be the cities in Texas.
Amazing. So how do you prevent a group from only paying for one tour and then sharing the phone versus traditionally having to pay per person to go on a tour?
Mm-hmm. So the way we do that is we actually don't. I mean, I think some of the fun is that if you are traveling in a small group and you have 2 or 3 friends, you guys can all watch from the same screen. One person can hold up the phone, and then you can all kind of tune in and share the audio. So it's not something that we're actively fighting against. I think there's room to have a shared experience for travelers, and we think that if that's the route people go, then that's fine. But the key there is that when you're out and you're traveling, and sometimes it's a little loud to hear, it's the best to just have your own earphones. So maybe people will purchase them individually, but it's not something that we're actively trying to fight.
That is a very good point. So the last couple of questions here are, the first one being, if people want to take photos of these locations, can you easily enable people to take photos within the app, or do they need to exit the app?
Yeah, that's a really fun feature of CityGuyd, is that there's a photo app that we're building right into the app. So whenever our tour guide pops up, you can have someone come into the field of view and then stand with them. We've had people put their hands over their virtual tour guide, and then you just click a button and it snaps it and saves it to your photos, and you can easily add it to social media, send to friends and family if you want to take a photo with your augmented Abe Lincoln tour guide. Whatever it is. So that's all built in. It's fun.
That is very great to know. And so I have one more question for you. What is the cost of equipment that a content/tour creator needs to make a VR tour to submit to your marketplace?
That's a great question. So we've actually been working on a kind of care package that we send to our tour guides that we're onboarded. And it's under $100 right now. We're hoping that as we scale and we bulk, we get these more in bulk, that those prices come down. But it basically consists of a simple green screen, a little tripod for your cell phone, and some basic lighting equipment where we can send it off. And then we also have experimented with just sending tour guides into a green screen studio locally and having them film that way. So there's 2 different ways that we do it, and it really depends on the tour guide's position and what makes the most sense for the individual person that's on board.
Well, thank you very much for providing such detailed responses to our attendees' questions. Taylor Ann, I'm going to send it back to you to introduce our next startup.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nora. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool and exciting to see. I'm eagerly awaiting travel. Next up, we have a startup called Zenus. So Zenus actually introduces a revolution in ethical facial analysis. They provide safe data capture of consumer behavior for the $21.7 trillion in-store retail market. Their proprietary technology produces heat maps and measures engagement without risk of data theft or personal identification. So I will now turn it over to Panos.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And I want to thank DELL Technologies, the Canon team, for putting all of the event together. As Taylor said, my name is Panos, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zenus. Melissa, next slide, please. So most people know that companies need data to optimize the customer acquisition process. Now, this is a typical marketing funnel, and every company with an online presence can easily track these metrics. It takes a few clicks to measure website traffic, social media engagements, and conversions. Click, please. But now the question is, how can we measure the engagements for in in-person experiences, offline experiences. So it turns out that this is a very hard problem to solve across sectors. Next, please. So let's say you're the owner of a retail store. How can you keep track of people's movements inside the store, collect the demographic information, and understand what they like the most, which aisles people spend the most time in, and so forth? Likewise, if you're a trade show organizer, you need to provide exhibitors hard data about the number of visitors on their booths. This information is critical for convincing them to renew their contract for next year, moving them to a prime location to get more traffic, or upgrading to a bigger booth, upselling. The same applies for corporate campuses, airports, hotels, and theme parks. Next, please. So multiple studies have shown that 84% of retail sales take place in-store. And this means that a massive chunk of behavioral data remains untapped. Capturing these insights corresponds to an $80 billion opportunity according to our research. And this is exactly the problem that we solve. Next, please. So our company offers an extremely efficient way of obtaining unique behavioral data for business owners and marketing professionals. So we analyze people's faces at a scale which has never seen before. Next, please. So we offer from foot traffics to group dynamics, audience engagement, demographics such as sex, age group, happiness level over time. And the more important thing is that we capture all of this information without knowing who people are, without identifying them, without ever crossing the privacy line. Next, please. So computer vision and facial analysis, they are not new. But our product is highly differentiated and addresses big engineering challenges. Streaming video to the cloud requires about 256 gigabytes of data to be transmitted every day for each camera. The GPU instances to process this cloud cost more than $5,000 per month, and privacy regulations in many places of the world, they don't even allow and permit sending the videos to the cloud to perform facial analysis. So companies which are desperate for data, they often install on-site servers and they have to run cables throughout the entire facility. The cost for these solutions is often $250,000 per year, and even worse, supporting these systems over time as people use them is a nightmare. Next, please. And this is where we come in. This is the second generation of our smart cameras, and we can cover up to 15,000 square feet with each. That's larger than a basketball court. So the devices, they process the video feed locally, which reduces data transmission from 256 gigabytes down to just 4 megabytes per day. And because our smart cameras use edge computing, this means that we don't need to store or transmit any video. Next, please. So instead of transmitting the video, each device is computing the high-level statistics, and these are sent over the Wi-Fi to the cloud to update our dashboard in real time. So what you see, this is a web interface, which is accessible anywhere and anytime. And the metrics, as you can see, include foot traffic, demographics, sentiment. We have heat maps, dwell time, real-time position tracking, and more. It's a lot of information. Next, please. So in addition to the hardware component, I want to point out that there's a lot of value in the data, and the accuracy of our software is mind-blowing. With one smart camera, we can detect and analyze hundreds of faces at the same time, multiple times a second. So our system works even when people wear face masks, with over 97% accuracy according to our data benchmarks. So I believe there is nothing in the market which comes even close to what we can do. Next, please. So to commercialize our technology, our business model relies on forming channel partnerships with marketing agencies and other IT providers. So the reseller approach reduces the customer acquisition costs, it mitigates the support requirements, and it also speeds up the adoption and feedback loop so that we can iterate quickly. We have signed letters of intent showing a pipeline of over 10,000 deployments per year. Next, please. Our existing partners have already helped us test our technology in over 20 countries, and the pilots and deployments we have done, they range from small crowds to tens of thousands of people. And these tests across the world have proven that our technology works everywhere, and our go-to-market approach is scalable on a global level. Next, please. And some of the pilots we have completed, they were with organizations such as Keller Williams and the United Kingdom Treasury Department. These have been extremely important in developing trust and growing our brand equity in the industry. Next, please. Our revenue model is simple. So we offer the hardware for free, and companies, they are paying us a monthly subscription for accessing the analytics and our dashboard, the values in the data. So to clarify, the price includes everything, hardware, software, support. And based on our calculations and our discussions with our channel partners, we're expecting on average to generate 25 subscriptions for every channel partnership. Next, please. So in the last few years, we have invested heavily in cultivating a healthy and inclusive culture. And this includes a clear set of values and processes, which makes team members feel respected and inspired. Mary is our marketing specialist, so if something looks nice, that's her work. Caleb, he's a full stack genius, and he's responsible for our user interfaces and infrastructure. And my co-founder, Raksak, he's amazing at training AI models and ensuring that the smart cameras work reliably. I have earned my PhD in computer science and have been working on facial analysis for over 9 years. My track record includes dozens of awards, publications in leading journals, US patents, and so forth. Next, please. Our team is very strong, and as a result, we have won multiple international awards for our technology and the benefits to the industry. And it's worth noting that in some cases, we were selected and we won awards over multi-billion-dollar companies, and this speaks volumes. But more importantly, on the next slide, you're going to see that when we show our technology to people, they respond with adjectives such as mind-blowing, game changer. And this is very, very good indication that we have won the minds and hearts of influencers across the board. And on my last slide, I want to let you know that in previous rounds, we have raised $1.2 million from investors such as Capital Factory, Frontera Ventures, and so forth. And we use the proceeds from these rounds primarily to develop and test the product in the field, in the real world. And now we are ready to focus on sales and marketing. So we have launched the second generation of our smart cameras. We have opened a public round of funding, which will allow us to aggressively grow our revenue next year in 2021. And everyone is welcome to go on our website, click on the invest button, and join our journey. This is the easiest way to invest in our startup and stay up to date with our latest news. I look forward to the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for such an informative presentation. I do have a few questions for you. The first one being, how have you acquired your current customers to date, and what is your sales strategy once you go to market?
First of all, we have released the first generation of the smart cameras, and we have tested it exhaustively. We have tested our software very, very thoroughly, and we started shipping the second generation of our smart cameras a few weeks ago, and we have shipped units from Turkey to Belgium to UK, in the United States. Last week, we signed an agreement in India with a big company that sells to government-based events. Today, we had an amazing discussion with another company in Europe. So we're focusing on channel partnerships, reseller agreements. And the thing is that most of the companies, they just find us through our network. People, they search what we do. And when clients come to us and they speak with us, they say, we have been looking for this for so long and nobody offers a very easy to use solution. And the last comment on this front is one investor who once told me, the company that will make facial analysis as easy as the light bulb that goes on my fridge at night when I go to have a snack, that's the company that's going to win the game. And that's what we have done.
Amazing. The next question I have for you is, how are you different than the Israeli security checkpoints at the Tel Aviv airport who do this already for 35 years?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, we distinguish between facial recognition and facial analysis. Facial recognition is the ability to identify and distinguish individuals. This requires having a database, this requires consent, it requires a lot of different steps. Even though we have developed and we have deployed this kind of technology in the past, we are focusing mostly on the facial analysis. This is, we do not recognize people, we just detect faces so that we can understand the foot traffic, the crowd flow, demographics, sentiment data, and so forth. Most of the deployments, like the ones you mentioned, they are focusing on security, we are focusing on the marketing and sales. And from a technology point of view, most of these, they focus on one face that is very close to the camera. With our cameras, we can detect and analyze a face which is 100 feet away or more. And we can do hundreds of faces multiple times per second on the device, on the edge. We don't store data, we don't transmit any images, we just collect the aggregate level statistics.
That is very good to know. Thank you for clarifying. I have a comment/question. This data is amazing. Do you package that up for store owners who might not be able to interpret all of the graphs and raw information?
So this is one of the main reasons why we work with channel partners. So one of the companies that received one of the cameras, it's a marketing agency based in UK. And one of the projects they're working on is a retail store. And in this case, the marketing agency, they're doing the whole, the displays, they're doing the promotion, and they're taking our analytics as part of that, and they're optimizing the whole customer experience for the retail store owner. And that's one of the main reasons why we're going through channel partnerships, because it helps us scale in a faster way. And these companies, they have the expertise to offer this personal touch and interpretation of the data. In some cases, we do engage directly with the end client. So, and this is when we are helping them collect these insights. But to be very, very frank, we have more information than people can comprehend. So I would say our biggest challenge is creating very, very high level overviews that is very, very meaningful. And that's why we have created a funnel. Everybody understands a funnel, total number of impressions, qualified leads, engaged leads. Everybody gets that. It's very, very useful. It's very, very easy to use.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that answer. The next question I have for you is, do you have an estimate for the amount of money Zenus saves/generates for a store to help them justify the $750 per month price tag? Do you see this technology being implemented in general consumer stores or more strategic high level, implementation venues and conferences?
So I would say both. There are actually many, many use cases. We had requests from some very, very large companies for corporate campuses. We've had requests for retail stores, for pop-up stores, activations, anything that has to do with in-person experiences. This is where our technology is very, very useful. And in order to understand, you might have seen, for example, in Whole Foods, in other grocery stores, people with clickers in the entrance of the store. So the owners, they have to allocate employees and allocate them in the entrance. And there are employees that stand for 8 hours just clicking people in and out. When you are able to use one camera to cover a very large area and automate this process, it releases the resources for the business owner to be able to support other functions. So I would say it is a much, much more efficient way. And when it comes to other applications, the insights you can get from optimizing the sales and marketing approach, this is huge. For example, a trade show center, its booth, sometimes they cost $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, sometimes even way, way more. So having the ability to go to the exhibitors and say, this year you had this much traffic and that's why you have to renew the contract for next year. And if you move from the back of the show to the front of the show, you will have 25% more traffic. And if you increase the booth size and you use this type of activation, then you're going to have 30% more engagement. This alone, it makes them so much more money than they spend on our service that it's a no-brainer.
Well, thank you, Panos, for answering those questions. We appreciate it. Taylor, and I'm going to send it back to you to introduce our last startup.
Cinevva introduces a new cloud-based web app to make video game projects without tech skills. Using AI and deep tech, VIA, which is the product, walks you through the complete process of how to build a game app. And with the emergence of esports and gaming, this is a very on point topic, and it's extremely interesting. So I will turn it over to Mariana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariana Montin, and I'm the CEO of Cinevva. I would like to thank DELL for inviting us today and hosting, as well as the Canon. You guys are amazing. So we are building the first AI cloud platform to help creatives without technical skills build video games and interactive content for easy, without frustration. Very much like Canva has done that for non-designers, be able to build presentations, as well as Bubble to offer coding solutions for non-coders. Prior to video games, I worked over 10 years in telecommunications as a chief marketing and advertising officer. Tonight, I would also like to introduce Oleg Sidorkin, our advisor and CTO, former chief AI architect at IBM, inventor, who will be presenting tonight with me the product. Oleg has 20 years experience in game development, software development, and in the past, he has successfully exited from his own startups. He has worked on and built the next generation conversational technology, securing multi-million revenue flows for previous companies. And fun fact about him is he's really passionate about Mission Impossible project. So the desire to help democratize complex tools such as Unreal and Unity for larger audience is one of his passions. So next slide, please. So in a $159 billion gaming industry, there is no code solutions for creators who want to build video games. Less than 0.1% of the 20 of them registered on one platform or another fail and cannot finish a successful game. Most of it boils down to poor planning, fragmentation of tools, and lack of industry experience. However, both Unity and Unreal and other game dev tools were written long time ago, over 16 years, and they need a good redesign of workflows. So our solution, next slide, please, is to help Joe, which is our target customer and audience, who publishes 1 to maybe 2 video games on Steam or other platforms, to streamline and complete the game with a provided roadmap to achieve their dream product. Next slide, please. And I'll let Oleg introduce what are we building.
Thank you, Mariana. I'm very happy to do so. So game development market is dominated by 2 key players, Unity and Unreal engines. They are complex gems of software with steep learning curve. What we are doing View. It's a SaaS platform which works as an overlay on top of these engines, providing a simple and streamlined solution to complete project end-to-end. It organizes data in a timeline fashion, covering all steps from game idea to the final product. Such steps include concept art, character design, mood boards, sketching, gameplay, level design, organizing menus for UI, for UX. And in the end, it's not just collecting and organizing assets in one place. It goes beyond that. It has all the components to control game development engines like Unity or Unreal to create buildable and runnable projects. Effectively, game developer can design levels, create and animate characters, control game logic in a guided way without leaving your timeline. And the secret sauce lies in our AI-powered features. Using machine learning, some statistics, image recognition, some NLP processing, we can automate routine and error-prone tasks. For end user, it works like magic. You just need to drop an image into a timeline, into a specific place, and it can understand what's inside. It can slice it, it can dice it, and map into a proper in-game asset, like tile set for levels, like character animations, like background image. So essentially, we provide well-designed building blocks to create a successful game. And our bigger goal is to grow Veo into an ecosystem. So such building blocks, such components can be contributed by community. And that's a way to scale it. So, Mariana?
We have established relationships with top gaming schools in the country, such as SMU Guildhall, Dallas, UT of Austin, University of Houston, Full Sail, to launch Veo immediately through education for education purposes.
And with respect to educational domain, I'd like to add that unlike other tools you might find which provides no-code solution, we do not completely hide our end product. What we provide at the end is a well-designed, human-understandable Unreal or Unity project, which allows you to learn how it works, to play with it without going deep into woods right from the beginning. And also what's important to mention is that the problem, the complexity of this tool, it's actually validated with these tools. In our interviews with both Unity and Unreal, they admitted that that's the problem. That's the growing complexity preventing them from reaching a wider audience of indie developers, and that's our audience.
Next slide. So Veo is offered as a freemium service, of course, from free to paid. Users can start projects for free, can collaborate, but to save and continue and to integrate with Unity and Unreal, and use other advanced features, they will create a free account and will start paying monthly. Indirectly, there are different variations of game development tools that exist in this pool of fragmented markets in Unreal or Unity marketplace. However, they don't offer any integrations or solutions similar to us. RTC Raft is one of them. It's a standalone planning tool, and it only works for story-based games that doesn't go beyond narrative games. So a fast-growing industry like that, especially in the last months during isolations, it proves that automation is a key instrument for us to be efficient for new and small developers to get their hands on high-tech tools. We are actively developing the private beta to be launched in a couple of weeks. We're looking into also as a next step, we'll be releasing the API into Unity Asset Store as well as into Unreal's Asset Store. This will expose our tool to over 20 million developers immediately. We have already started working with universities mentioned a little earlier. We're also looking into working with Unity Education Department as well as Global Game Jams. Our stage rollouts will allow us to get to over 200,000 users total with 18,000 paying subscribers. So our team as game developers and software developers for gaming has decades of years of experience in not only video game development, but also marketing, advertising, as well as deep tech. Our advisors and members of the team and partners have extensive experience with building AI architectures, NLP, machine learning intelligence, specifically for gaming. Oleg here and Eric has successfully exited previous startups, and I have over 15 years experience in building mobile games content. Next slide. So we're looking for $750,000 in funding to cover our expenses for the next 16 months when we reach our return on investment, to start implementing those sweet AI features and components to increase our game databases, as well as assets and mechanics libraries. So Cinevva's mission is to open doors to everyone who wants to build video games and cool content, and it goes beyond 2D. With the help of the AI, we'll bridge the gap between the tech and creatives to offer real solutions to ideas to come to life. I'm welcoming any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariana and Oleg, for your presentation. I do have one question for you, but fear not. We will be sending around a follow-up email with contact details, so I'm sure connections will be made after this pitch party. And so the question that I have for you is, how advanced of a game can you create using your software? Do you see customers being able to create games and then sell them, or is this more for internet like private use or internal private use, excuse me?
So with respect to game complexity, we definitely targeting to get game released into public, not just for private use. And yes, we are providing some building blocks to build game in a guided way. In the same time, what we have as an essence, and as one of the key technology, is an ability to mix and match different components. So you can create a unique game, which crosses different genres. And just by my own experience, the most successful games are crossing different genres. They bring something new.
Well, thank you both for such an informative presentation. We appreciate your time today. Taylor, I'm going to send it back to you to wrap us up.